Welcome to Kate Was Here, an improvised storytelling experiment written and performed by Doug Banks and Kat Blackard. To support this and other surprise RPG experiences, head to patreon.com/omniversemedia.
You find yourself over Hill Valley. Flying cars have returned. The whole thing is full. It's a nice, beautiful day. Very calm, very normal. You're feeling safe for the first time in a while because at least things might be strange here, but you're not in any immediate danger. He merges with a sky traffic line and starts leading back into Hill Valley. And he says, so as I said, it's been a few days. So right now it's early December of 2016, and you can see as per the date. He says, I put Einstein in that suspended animation kennel, so he'll be there until we need him. Where do you think we should begin? We need to figure out what happened to Marty Jr. and try to straighten this out. So he's going to start driving and leave it open to you if you have any. So
we're in the same 2016. Are we in where there was a sort of time window we had planned to go back to solve this whole inserting myself as a regular teen in 2016 and figuring out what's going on with Marty Jr., et cetera, et cetera.
Well, in 2016, Marty Jr. is arrested.
Right, so and we're presently in 2016.
Correct.
Okay.
So the idea being that why jump to 2015 when we don't even know where to begin looking?
Right, so we're going to collect all the information we can on the incident and then figure that out. So I guess we've seen, a headline maybe for this whole thing with...
it was really just sort of sparsed over the details. It just said that what he was arrested for, the day that he was arrested, and that within 2 hours of his arrest, he was sentenced to 10 years in the state penitentiary.
Yeah. Okay. And he was stealing. What was he stealing?
He was accused of trying to steal from the Hill Valley payroll station. So basically, stealing people's checks.
Right. Okay. Well, all we have to do is create a universal standard income policy, and this won't be a problem at all.
I mean, even with the universal standard income, people can still hold jobs.
Sure. But that, it won't be as big a deal.
I mean, it's still stealing, so.
Yeah, no, I'm just joking. Okay. Doc, do you have a base of operations here yet? Are you where did you fix the DeLorean?
I still have my garage and my laboratory.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well let's go back there. Let's do a bunch of research and figure out everything that we need to do to stop Griff or help Marty not do that thing.
He says, before I left 1985, I implemented several plans in place to make sure that we still had a place to arrive when we got to 2016. So yeah, let's do that. And so he'll take the car down. We can jump ahead in time a little bit to where you are in Doc's lab. And he has access. He doesn't have, I think at this point he probably has a modern computer. And probably access to the internet and stuff like that, because he spent probably almost a week in 2016 at this point. So he has some of this stuff set up, and he'll say, "So Kate, I followed the instructions on putting this together. I think everything is set. You are more familiar with this setup than I am, so I will trust your navigation skills on the internet as opposed to mine."
Yeah, I'm sure it's improved. Unfortunately, we're both. This is still another world for the both of us, but yeah, I can navigate my way through this. And in fact, I should probably spend at least a week, if not longer, just kind of absorbing this culture, because so much of it's different. None of the apps are called the same things, and they don't work the same. And if I have to ingratiate myself to modern teens, I'm gonna end up seeming like some kind of wacky foreign exchange student who doesn't know what the hell's going on in the modern world if I'm not careful. Because that's how different everything is. So in this sort of like establishing of a base of operations, of getting things ready to go, I'm interested in a few things. Obviously, we're going to be looking at every report pertaining to Marty Jr.'s arrest and anything that we have in this timeline based on the activities and socials surrounding Griff and his gang.
Okay. When you look up stuff, you don't really see much about Griff's gang. There's nothing, like, they're not in the newspaper. They don't seem to make the news.
Right. But I know that I'm looking for Griff Tannen. Like,
yeah, you know, because that was what Marty Sr.
Yeah.
had said. He suspected that Griff and his gang were behind it. And you also knew that Griff Tannen was in the future a terrible, terrible, awful human who like murdered people in front of you and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But at this point, he's still a teenager. He's close to your age.
Which also makes me suspicious about Biff. I wasn't really suspicious of like what happens to Biff afterwards necessarily, but now I'm like, okay, well his kid's a fucking nightmare. So his grandkid's a nightmare. I don't know anything about his like Griff clearly has a child somewhere in the mix, and like or Biff does. So all these people are extremely dangerous. So I'm making ourselves very aware of their goings on as well, figuring out where they live, what they look like now, how to avoid them or how to find them if we need to, and also like known associates and stuff.
Sure. I'll say that you really find next to nothing about Griff Tannen other than maybe like standard social media stuff, but nothing that would show any like illegal activities. You can see like friends that he associates with, but again,
I need friends, any places where he hangs out, like that sort of stuff.
So I'll put it this way: in terms of looking like any news things, well, although he appears to be a tough son of a bitch, it doesn't appear that he has much of a record that would be public, like nothing in the news or anything like that.
And no arrests that I can.
Not that you
find?
can see.
Okay.
But you do see. You do see things in the news not around Griff, but just in general about teenage fad of like teenage gangs might be into illegal body modifications, especially of the extreme variety, like full cybernetic overhauls and stuff like that, which is still a super controversial thing, but it's technically possible. And people using them to, like cheat in sports, and there's all sorts of controversies like this. It's almost like I don't want to say safe version of like being hopped up on super steroids, but it's kind of like what it's like, because it's all performance enhancement, but to a degree that's super dangerous in the wrong hands.
Now, these are cybernetic body modifications. Are there like genetic ones as well?
Not that you can really see. It seems to be that the genetic ones are still in like experimental phases, still a lot of high theoretical stuff because the ethics involved of like doing genetic experiments on living creatures and things. But it seems that they're looking more in terms of like health, like eliminating hereditary diseases and syndromes and things like that, but nothing major. It seems that in terms of like performance enhancement or customizing, cybernetics is the current illegal trend. There are legal cybernetic enhancements,
such as
people who have like missing limbs, people who had damage to their eyes got a new eye, things like that. But in terms of like illegal enhancements is where it gets kind of crazy, like ones that might be able to alter your appearance, alter your shape, alter your size. Not so much that you're like a T-1000 or nothing like that, but certainly ones that could contain hidden levels of strength that would borderline on what you would associate with like a comic book character,
right?
Not like Superman per se, but a little more Jessica Jones in terms of like what you could take damage wise and what you could deal damage wise.
They're obviously illegal, but like, are they dangerous?
The part of the reason why they're illegal is because there is a danger to them affecting your the natural circuitry of your brain.
Gotcha.
Either interfering signals, inhibiting signals, misinterpreting signals, causing accidental self-harm to yourself and to others around you, obviously. There is a stigma, which appears to be true, that the more enhancements you get, the more your brain starts to short-circuit, and you get twitchy, and you eventually just, go bananas.
Okay.
Sort of that it's like almost like it blocks your logical human brain and enhances your lizard brain, is what the street theories are about this thing.
Yeah.
Which is why people are a little afraid to do it too. And especially since that's long term, it's not easily reversible. Because once you do extreme modification to your body like that, you can't just say, "All right, give me my old arm back." It's like, well, no, like
we've already transplanted that.
Yeah.
Like someone else has that arm now.
Precisely.
Okay. Cool. All right. I'm also stalking myself.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyron. And my mom, if she has any socials.
Yeah. Your mom has like the equivalent of a LinkedIn profile, sort of online resume.
Yeah, and my dad?
Your dad did have one, but it's been quiet for a few years.
Okay.
Like you see that he was last employed like for the city. Maybe it looks like he stopped working for the city back, I'm going to say, in like 2010. And he has not worked anywhere since then. It doesn't even look like he's updated his page much since then.
What's current... What am I going to call her? What's... Other Kate doesn't... I'll just call her Other Kate.
Mm-hmm.
Other Kate doesn't spell her name K8, right? Is that just...
No, she spells it phonetically, look with the letters.
Yeah, okay. And do we have the same haircut, or do we have some kind of, like, how different do we look? I know we've covered this before, but I forget.
It's not an extreme difference. You could probably fake her haircut if you wanted to. But her face-based page is full of all different looks. She's definitely trying to be what we would consider in real life like an Instagram influencer.
Right.
In terms of trying on different clothes, trying different makeup, trying different hairstyles. Definitely leans into fashion a bit. You're not sure what her profession or career of choice would be, because it seems that all she does is make these short videos and snips and pictures and things about travel and fashion.
Right, she's a professional person. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I do get it. Okay, well, my goal in the short term is to make myself definitely not her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so anything I can do to change my haircut or whatever, so someone might say, "Oh, wow, you look just like this person," but not like you are this person.
Sure.
Not in a way that, like, sacrifices my personal aesthetic, but that very much says, like, do not mistake me for this bitch.
Yeah. Like, if you got some shades and you did your hair, like, even if you kept your hair as your normal hair now, she doesn't have that haircut or style. Like, she's not, like, you're seeing all bunch of different styles, but nothing that matches your current haircut.
Does she, like, have, like, colors she sticks to or something, or is it just really random?
It's really random.
Okay.
I would say probably by default, it would be your natural hair color, but half the time, it's a different color.
Okay. All right, well, then I'm going to stick to my short hair. If anything, maybe make it shorter. And I guess take to wearing glasses or something. I mean, but does she... Wait, okay, so in the future, everybody has heads-up displays, like, relatively speaking, right? Like, that's kind of like a common
That's a thing, yeah.
Yeah. So does she, like, often have any kind of...
like eyewear?
Yeah, eyewear or reoccurring things about her aesthetic that with any kind of pattern that I definitely, like, not do that. Like, if she wears glasses a bunch, I could not wear glasses and that could fix that. Or
she doesn't seem to wear glasses too much. She seems to be big on the makeup of the face, so like eye makeup and things.
Right.
Now, granted, in reality, out and about in public, who knows? But the presence that she puts out there is definitely, her face is her moneymaker kind of thing.
Right.
So she doesn't... She'll do sunglasses like when they're out traveling, or ski goggles when they're skiing. You know, the obvious things. But the eye, like cosmetic, like eye fashion, or like in terms of things that she would wear, doesn't seem to be really big with her. So if you, I think you would feel confident with minimal effort, with like maybe sunglasses, the clothes you have, the hair that you have, keeping your head down, you feel like you might be able to blend in enough with common folk and maybe not stand out. Okay,
cool. Well, then I'll be the...
I'll say that since this is later on in December, she is no longer in London. She's actually in Barcelona now. So
okay, and does she go to school? I mean, like, I'm so confused by the whole, like, London thing.
It seems that she studies while traveling abroad. like she's able to do online classes while traveling.
Bitch. Okay, nice work if you can get it.
I mean, I will say that it does seem like even if you had that ability, that seems really freaking difficult. Like you're not sure how she's doing this, or if it's like maybe. I mean, like part of you says, "Is this even legit?" But like, I'm not. Even other me can't be like cheating the system, But it just seems really, really difficult to have this kind of Instagram lifestyle, but also still be a full-time student in high school, like that. Like it's not that it's impossible. It's just that either she is busting her ass behind the scenes, or it's bullshit.
Yeah. There was some touch sensitivity things that like genetic dated me, like linked to her.
Mm-hmm.
Can we fake that so that doesn't happen somehow? Like different fingerprints or something? Like, I guess what do Doc and I need to do so that if I'm in public situations, like I'm not continually identity thieving this person's business in a way that could be.
You need cash.
Okay.
Doc can get you some cash.
Well, what about like are there other social? I mean, like I was identified at a restaurant. Like, are there like other government things or something, things I can do to obscure being identified by all, let's say, the like advertising and different other things that would want to source my identity data?
It would seem that there's the opt-out feature on these things, and that wouldn't be difficult for you to deal with.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm opting out. I'm paying in cash. I'm off the grid.
Yeah, as much as you can be. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Off the grid. Definitely not that Kate Ritchie. I just go by K8. I don't have a last name. I dress in dark clothing. I'm very mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that is so not her vibe. So great. Super duper. I don't have to change too much to be the 2016 version of me.
Other Kate definitely leans more K-pop in terms of style and color and vibrance with fashion choices, rather than what cool artsy your version of Kate leans to. So there's definitely an obvious difference in terms of style choice.
Cool. Another search that I'm continuing to dig at when I this is all free time, is figuring out what happened to Betty.
Again, you're much like before, because if you were looking at this as part of like a regular, straightforward timeline, you were here maybe a week ago when you were,
right. I just figure I'm probably capable of doing more the deeper I go.
Again, the records from that early time are hard to figure out. Unless you had like a subscription to like an ancestry website or something like that, it doesn't seem to have a lot of information on a Betty Ritchie.
I've got time and I've got resources in theory. If Doc's not gonna pry about my prying too much, so yeah, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Because I mean, the thing is, like Betty could even be alive now if she is alive at all, and I want to know that she'd be like in her 70s or 60s or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting that work in to do my due diligence to see like if she's okay. I don't know what her timeline was like in my timeline, but I do know that I could have fucked her over, and I really don't want to do that. And if there's a situation that I can fix to make her life better, I want to do it. I definitely just don't want to have hurt her. In any kind of lasting way.
So here's the deal. You can log into like a family tree website and make an account and start to fill out the information, but it's going to want to pair you with some already established family trees. And in doing so, you can get that information, but you will have to basically acknowledge that the user who created this account is Kate Ritchie.
Oh, that's fine. I'll do it behind a VPN and like whatever other, whatever web masking things I can do.
Because you could always just say the real Kate Ritchie. Well, exactly. Like, the other Kate Ritchie's doing this.
Yeah, and she might not ever, as long as if there's no email of hers connected to it, then who's gonna know?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, let's say that you can go ahead and do that. You can merge it with like maybe let me because I have some family information here that I had to dig up really quick. I will say that an uncle of yours on your father's side, who you don't really like, he just like lives on the other coast, like you probably never really saw him or anything like that. He appears to have had one, like an account, and when it's like, are you related to whatever? And you start to compare like the things, you start to see the family tree forming, and when you look back, you can see the familiar names of Edna, and
wife of Edward.
Yeah, and they have 2 children, and one of them is Edward, who's like Edward, like Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a daughter named Elizabeth Ritchie.
Aha!
So when you start to look up Elizabeth Ritchie throughout Hill Valley, you find really sparse information. You find sort of like an old, someone had scanned an old high school yearbook from the 50s. So you can definitely see this is her. Like you see a photo. Like again, you're doing like deep digging here, like trying to piece together like it's almost like the journalistic part of you is like coming back out, trying to figure out like what happened.
Yeah.
But after you start digging, you can see that she did finish high school, but after that she seems to have vanished.
So if I can search for Elizabeth or Betty Ritchie in kind of like, let's say cultural hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. Mm-hmm. Chicago.
I mean, you find a lot of similar names. It seems to be a fairly enough common name where it starts to get confusing as to, like, oh, we have Elizabeth this and Betty this, or Richie this and this, and it's clearly not the same person.
Yeah.
So you're having a hard time. It does oddly seem like she just kind of vanished shortly after high school. There may be a lead in San Francisco for a short time, but you're not 100%. You don't feel super confident about that. But it is because you had mentioned San Francisco. There's a gut feeling that she did go to San Francisco, but you can't confirm it based on what little things that you're seeing here, because it seems that she may have been part of the art scene, maybe changed her name, maybe moved again. You're not 100%.
Well, that's very encouraging. And the possibility of something there along those lines helps me feel better. She's still going to be my pet project until I know something for sure. Okay, so I've got that squared up. Now I want to look back into the past socials of Marlene and Marty Jr.
Mm-hmm. Marlene's a very studious student. Nothing seems strange out of the ordinary about her thing. Marty Jr., he unfortunately would be a loser. He's like he's not a bad kid, but he is a Dorcas Malorcas to the max, right?
Mm-hmm.
He seems to have a lot of confidence problems. Does not have a good profile photo. Doesn't post photos. Really doesn't even make a lot of public postings at all. Only has like his friend count is like 5 people. You know, like it's really not looking like he has a lot of support.
Does he have any hobbies? Is there any indication of there being a personality there besides him just being a loser?
He definitely seems to be introverted and geeky pop culture. Like he watches a lot of TV, plays a lot of video games, is kind of a shut-in, really. He seems... like you can understand, you could see why Marty would think that he was easily bullied into doing something, because he doesn't hang out a lot, and
sure.
he doesn't appear to be a very studious student. Like he hasn't shown much interest in different colleges and stuff. Whereas Marlene, you look at her page and she's older than Marty Jr. It looks like she was already starting to look at different colleges. Like you see maybe some social posts of her being like, taking the tour of this university today. Fingers crossed. Kiss, kiss.
Do I get an indication of the bond that they have? Because Marlene went to some real extremes to help Marty Jr. out, and that's impressive. It seems like they have their...
I would say that you do see maybe not many, but a couple photos of her and Marty Jr. hanging out together, like maybe going on like family trips and stuff. And she seems to be genuinely smiling. So you get the sense that she does love her brother. But her brother is always very awkward in like all the photos and stuff. Like he's smiling, but it's very much like, ha ha.
So she's clearly overprotective of him because he's a little like fawn in the woods and is a hot mess.
You're getting a sense of that, yeah.
And how old is Marlene? How old would she have been at the time of the incident?
At the time of the incident, Marty Jr. was 17, so she'd be 18, about to graduate high school. Maybe even, actually, she probably had already graduated high school, was about to start college because this was October of during the incident.
Okay.
So she's out of high school.
And Marty Jr.'s 17?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Can I track down any information about Marty Jr., like his gamer tag? Or something like where, like, if he's not active on like, popular people's socials, can I look at his, like, gaming habits and stuff? Are there platforms where I can communicate with him, in the past, obviously not now, but like through some kind of first-person shooter or Minecraft or something like Minecraft that exists now?
Sure. I'll say he probably, on one of his other social pages, not like your forward-facing one, but like one of the more nerdy ones, I would say you can see that he has a gamer tag. So if you want to look into like the gamer tag, like what would the equivalent would be of like his Twitch account.
Yeah.
You can see like previous recordings of him playing like some virtual reality games and stuff. But he has no personality. He's really just sort of like not really even acknowledging. No one, it's like the views are like in single digits.
Right. Like, I mean, and it might just be that there's broadcasting a game is a passive thing that you don't even have to like, it's just something that happens. You don't really think about it.
Yeah. So you can see that he does seem to like playing games and seems to get lost in them, but he's not a super passionate person. So it's not like, oh, that's the real Marty, happy version of Marty coming out. He's just sort of like, oh, all right, he's just like using virtual reality gloves, with the virtual reality headset on, like playing these games. And there's a little picture in a picture of like the type of games that he's playing, where it's just sort of stereotypical fantasy, the version of Skyrim, as if you will,
Sure.
But he's not even a super animated person. So like you watching it would be like if you didn't know this person and what the struggles they were going through, like this is boring as fuck, like because this person is just not entertaining. So why did they even bother broadcasting this kind of thing? I will say though that if you're looking through the pages to see like who he's friends with, there is one person on the friend page of like his main face-based page. Others like there's he only has like maybe 10 people like listed as friends. One obviously being Marlene. Looks like the other might be his mom, Jennifer. And
follow her too.
Yeah. Another looks like they might be a teacher at like Hill Valley High School.
Okay.
And maybe a couple of classmates. One of them is Kyron.
Oh, fuck me. Okay.
You don't see any photos of him and Kyron. You don't see any posts on either wall. Like Kyron doesn't post on Marty's wall. Marty Jr. doesn't post on Kyron's like wall. But they are linked for some reason.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that... Golly, I'm going to have to... I feel like if Kyron... If Kyron is in Marty Jr.'s world, then I'm going to have to... I feel like maybe do something more drastic to not appear to be myself, because if Kyron, like, it might be necessary for Kyron to view me as a different person. And maybe just the fact that he already saw me, like, in this timeline, and maybe it's just because he was seeing me in his house, and I was clearly there, and, like, the home said it was me. That's... Maybe that's too much, and maybe I can't even be Kate with an 8, I need to be somebody else. Shit. We'll have to think about that. We'll cross that bridge when we time travel. Are there any ways that I can find to... that can easily destabilize a person's cybernetic enhancements?
Not unless you're law enforcement.
Are there any illicit means through which I can acquire law enforcement technology?
If you're doing a Bloogle search of that or whatever the search function, whatever search company it is, it's not going to show you like buy this now. Like there's no way. It's just more of like the types of things that people get arrested for having.
Okay.
For example, let me actually give you an actual thing here. The Degaussian unit that Marty Jr. was arrested with,
Yeah.
that's an example of that.
Okay. How big is that?
Let's see. I'd say it's a modern day equivalent of probably. You could hold it with two hands. It's probably. I'm trying to think of how to best to describe. It's probably like a couple of lunch boxes if you stacked together.
Okay.
You know, because it's bulky. You couldn't hide it in a jacket. You could hide it in a bag.
Right.
But if you were carrying it, people would be like, "What the hell are you carrying?" Because you can't hide it behind your back or nothing like that.
So basically, there is no robo mace.
No, there's not an equivalent of Robo Mace now.
Okay.
Because you need to create a powerful electrical field to disturb, something.
Yeah.
Maybe you can build like an electromagnet. I mean, Doc's a scientist.
Yeah, maybe. That's worthwhile. That's a good little angel on my shoulder whispering that in my ear. I'll ask Doc if there is anything we can do to create some kind of pocket-sized thing that could destabilize someone's cybernetics. Just because I am wary of another confrontation with Griff, who I'm sure is 1,000 times worse in the future than he is now as a snot-nosed punk. But he's still, based on everything I'm seeing, probably modded up and is gonna cause some hell for me. So,
so if you ask Doc, he says, well, I believe the simple solution might be if you wanted to change the electrical field inside something, an electromagnet would do that quite nicely, I would imagine.
Well, Doc, if you can hook something like that up, I would be very appreciative. Let's call it a Griff deterrent.
So you want me to, if I could whip up an electromagnet, is what you're asking?
Right, a tiny device that I can point at a person and destabilize their cybernetic enhancements.
You're asking me if I can build an electromagnet.
I know that seems. Yes, Doc, I am. I guess.
And he's so just the point that he's making is he leans on the DeLorean and says, "If I could build this, I'm fairly certain I can build a pocket-sized electromagnet."
I recognize that it's child's play, Doc. I recognize this.
You seem to, your behavior seemed to indicate that you thought it was a big favor. I'm just telling you, this is nothing. I'm telling you not to worry about it. Well, I can have it for you in a few minutes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, great. That's great. I mean, like, I expect you to tell me, like, well, no, it's got to be this such and such complicated a thing because that's not how cybernetic implants work, and it's got to get through all this meat and, whatever.
Wrap a coil around a battery. Didn't you go to? Well, I don't know what the future is like. I'm fine. He grumbles.
Neither do I.
he'll playfully grumble off and just starts going through drawers and cabinets and starts trying to whip something together.
Okay. So I'm also absorbing as much pop culture as I can to try to have an understanding of what exists that I know, what doesn't exist that I might need to know, what are new things that I've never experienced before that I like, and getting a sense of that so I can be functional in this world. And is there anything I need to learn about Chiron that I don't already know?
You can look at his social media and stuff and try and figure out, piece together what kind of person he is. He's a little more easy to read than Marty Jr. Because he seems to have a little bit more of a social life. He definitely runs in more artistic circles, more creative people. Definitely a nerd, but not awkward. Kind of seems like a cool dude, actually. You could see yourself getting along with them pretty easily, really. He's not just like you in terms of being the artistic kid, but there's definitely a lot of overlap. You both would have a lot in common, but you're definitely not the same person.
Right.
You actually kind of feel like it's a shame that other Kate and him aren't together at all. You barely, you really don't see any overlap between other Kate and Chiron. But you do see a lot of overlap between Chiron and yourself. So you think, based on what you see, he's kind of He's basically a teenager who lives alone because other Kate is always around, is always out and about. And your mother, from what you've seen on the research as well, she's always working remotely, like in different parts of the world. Dad is a big fat question mark, and has not been around for at least 6 years. But Chiron is trucking. He's moving along. He is like, looks like he was looking into different schools, like after graduating. In fact, he would have graduated this year, so he is post high school, and he's probably either about to go to college or looking into college at least. You don't know based on just the public-facing side of stuff.
But for both, but that's this year.
Correct.
So like last year, he would have been same age as Marty.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Other note, I'm gonna get some kind of futuristic contact lenses that make my eyes like a piercing aqua, something that like can detract from if I see Chiron. Oh, this is totally my sister. I don't know if maybe that's too. Is that too much? What something she would do? Shit, that's pretty K-pop having crazy eyes. Damn it! I'm just really wary now of like if I've got to be in the same space as him. I'm gonna be so suspicious.
Again, this is all, however you want to do this. So, based on all your searches and everything, is there anything else you want to look into specifically that's been sticking out, or anything you want to be sure about before you take any kind of action?
My plan is to befriend Marty Jr. and Marlene, station myself in there, and disrupt the cycle of Griff's abuse. I've heard stories about what Marty did for George in the 1950s, and my goal is to do that for Marty Jr.
Okay. So, what do you think is when you say you want to sort of ingratiate yourself with them, the only thing you know for certain is the date that he gets arrested.
Right. So
everything else is up for question.
I want to show up earlier in the year, like maybe by a couple months at least. Wait, what's the date on that?
Of his arrest?
Yeah.
The date of his arrest is Thursday, October 22nd, 2015. He was arrested early in the morning, like in the wee hours of the morning.
And I wonder if something we should do is, since Doc told Marty that he'd look him up if he ever, like, went forward in future, he could look him up, back then, and introduce me as his niece. And I haven't met Marty in the past. There'd be no reason that that's not true. And that, I can just kind of, go play with the kids my own age while they're catching up, and then we won't have to be quite so subtle about everything and have to, like, lie our way through all these situations about Doc not being here and me not being associated with this guy who Marty Sr. knows. Like, that seems needlessly complicated. So we'll just cut out if Doc's okay with it, we'll cut out the bullshit, and all we have to do is pretend that the stuff we know about the future hasn't happened.
Okay. Doc says, all right, that sounds like a fairly good plan. It's a good approach. Honesty is always a good policy. There was one thing I think we should try to keep in mind. We're about to alter this family's future, but we can't. I can't walk in there and tell Marty what's about to happen. But
right.
But we know we're about to take a direct influence on their lives. What I would like to do, part of this ongoing time travel experiment, is to present ourselves just privately between you and myself an opportunity for some kind of signal from our future selves if this doesn't work.
That's brilliant, Doc. I'm sorry. This future soda is very
fizzy.
It's very fizzy.
It's too perfect. I'm not used to the perfection of Pepsi Perfect. So he'll say, so before we make our jump, I think maybe we should take a walk, per se. Like if we had to signal ourselves to to not do something or not go to this time, we could leave ourselves a note or something.
Yeah.
If we had to, if the actions we're about to take need to not happen, we have to at least, in order to avoid a paradox, we have to leave an alternate possibility open for us to do something.
Right. What about an unlikely series of emoji that have no reason to appear together, that if we see them, we'll realize that our future selves are trying to contact us somehow. Does that make sense?
A series of what?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I mean, I know he's been trying to catch up too, so I just assumed that he knew. Okay, so I pull out my phone and I like open a text message.
I just couldn't imagine a time where you're trying to explain. We were both trying to catch up on the future, and you thought emojis were important, like to bring up the dots.
They are important. They're a whole accessory language to English, obviously.
I mean, not if he's like reading the news, or historical websites or anything.
Well, explain the headline with the smiling poop emoji, Doc. So, yeah, let's see. I'm going to create an innocuous series of emoji here.
One that'll
gibberish.
make sense to you, but gibberish to anyone else, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be, let's do sort of smiley face with the tongue sticking out, like, ooh, delicious, like that kind of face, followed by a stick of TNT, followed by a surfer woman, followed by a camera with a flash on.
Can you send me that just so I can have it on the record?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like the yum emoji, like, tasty, stick of dynamite, surfer lady, and then a camera flash. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say it's highly unlikely anyone would ever bother to type those things in sequence.
Does that make any kind of sense to you? Does that say a message, or is it just the combination?
There's no narrative here. But if we were to see this preposterous combination of emoji, we should pay attention to our surroundings. Something is amiss.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, I can't think unless of any, even after having absorbed this culture for all these weeks, why this sequence of emoji would appear anywhere for any reason.
He says, all right, so I think we should take a walk for at least 10 minutes. We can leave the DeLorean. We'll leave my laboratory and come back, and if we see this sequence of emojis anywhere, whether it's on a phone, electronically, or even if it's printed or hand-drawn.
Right now, we're going to do this.
When we're ready to leave.
Okay.
Once we decide to travel through time, we'll have to take that 10-minute walk.
Yeah, this is our safe word.
So is there what any other preparations you want to do before you think about making this jump?
I'm gonna get a few more outfits that make sense for this timeline, like enough to seem like I live here and it isn't weird that I'm repeating.
Mm-hmm. So is your plan to like stay for an extended time in 2015?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like, as much as I don't know how many days Marty spent in 1955.
A week.
Great. A week. Perfect. I don't want to cut it down to the wire. I want to, because that's ridiculous. Why would I set myself up for failure like that? But let's go back.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind, if you're discussing this with Doc, he would say the other thing to keep in mind is we don't know the exact sequence of events that pushed Marty Jr. into getting involved with Griff.
Right.
I agree. We shouldn't get too close to that thing because it would be almost nothing we could do could prevent it.
Question. We have both agreed that we're going to help Marty. Did Marty ask us to do something, or was he just...
He had just lamented that nothing could be done, and he wondered if we could do something to prevent it from happening.
Okay. Well, if this... Marty in this timeline that we're in presently will cease to exist as soon as we start meddling in terms of our perception of time. So, it would behoove us to go interview him and get all the details. Say like, hey, Marty, we're doing this. Tell us literally everything.
That's a sound idea. What better way to figure out what may have gone wrong than speaking to Marty well, Marty Sr., I suppose, now, after the fact, and if he could change anything, what would that be?
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm glad you're comfortable with this. Great. I think we should do this. Cover all the angles.
So, yeah, with that, you guys can head over to that side of town again where it's Depressingville, population Marty Sr., and Jennifer. Yeah, you head back to that that area. You took the DeLorean, you floated it down back, and same thing. You were here just a few days ago,
Yeah.
But it's from their perspective, it's been like maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks. And you knock on the door. Marty Sr. answers, and much like before, you can come in and hang out. And he's surprised to see both of you again. He's, "Oh, Doc, it's good to see you. It's been a couple weeks. I wasn't really expecting to see you again. What, is there something I or Jennifer can do to help? What's the situation?" And Doc will go in and explain that they want to try and save Marty Jr.
And as we go in, I look at all the things on his monitors and how it clearly this is a dingy apartment. But like every apartment in the future, it's got a bunch of screens, way too many.
Yeah.
And I see if I can whatever I know the Alexa or Google or whatever the standard computer preface thing
Sure.
Hey, Amazonia, all monitors to relaxing tropical streams, to forest scenery. Let's clear the cobwebs out of here.
Sure,
this guy's a wreck.
Yeah. Sure. You can do that and just try and get the place a better, more chill vibe.
Yeah. Okay. So Doc and I are both talking at Marty, and okay, so if we're gonna do this thing, we need to take this bad influence away from your kid. I've heard the stories about you and George, your dad. History is extraordinarily cyclical, and we're going to do that for your son. But since we have the option of talking to you now, and since you're not going to remember any of this, well, we want to find the appropriate time to step into your lives, to step into your son's life, and fix this problem. Do you know when he started hanging out with Griff? Do you know when these problems started?
He was always a good boy. He didn't really hang out with Griff. I knew that he'd picked on him in school, and I just tried my best to give him pointers on how to deal with bullies. Doc could tell you I've dealt with some bullies in my time. I didn't think Marty Jr. had such a problem. I know that in October he was acting a little more paranoid. That's when I noticed things were off about him, but I just didn't know how bad it was. I don't know. I still don't know the details of exactly how they got to him. Marty Jr. he seemed afraid to incriminate anyone else. Even, he must have felt he was protecting us somehow. I don't know why he wouldn't mention Griff and the other members of his gang, but I knew that they were bullying him, at least since the beginning of October, probably long before that. And I don't know what they did to convince him to go through with this.
Okay. Anything we should know about people he hung out with, what his social circles were like?
He was kind of a shut-in, and I was actually encouraging him to get out and maybe do something. If, join a rock band, join the sports team of some kind, or just at least hang out. And he never went out with Griff's gang. Like I said, I know that they had bullied him.
Right.
But he seemed to have a hard time connecting with anyone. He struggled in school a little bit, had tutors.
If he was trying to protect you from something, is there any chance that Griff had any dirt on you?
I wouldn't know about any dirt. I mean, Griff's a kid, but I don't know about any dirt he would have on me and my family. But I think there's a chance that with his rumors about him having all these bionic implants, and we know he's up to no good. We know he's doing illegal activities. If he was threatening violence on me or my family, I can imagine Marty Jr. would do whatever he could to protect us.
Okay.
If he'd just come forward to me sooner with these worries, I could have told him, that we could handle. I could handle a couple of punk teenagers. This isn't outside the realm of something that we can handle.
Clearly. Okay. Does school still start in late August in this timeline, or is and this is a question for that I assume that I would know from my research. So I'm asking you, Game Master Doug. What do I know about the school cycle? Because if we're looking at something happens in October, I could just as easily start senior year with Marty if we're able to doctor that, Marty Jr., if we're able to doctor that process and ingratiate myself that way, unless it's all home learning or something.
Well, for Marty Jr., this would be his junior year.
Okay.
It would be
whatever.
Yeah. Marlene would have just graduated in May.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess technically, no, I think you're right. This would be the beginning of Marty Jr.'s senior year. I believe, if I'm understanding that correctly.
If it's the same as our
yeah, which I have no reason to think it wouldn't be.
Okay, so you're saying late August, early September
would be the start of his senior year.
Okay, cool. What school did Marty Jr. go to?
Hill Valley High School, same as his parents.
Okay, cool. Marty, is there anything you can tell us about your relationship with Biff Tannen, Biff Tannen's children, or Griff Tannen?
Biff Tannen and I don't... He kind of smirks at the memory. He's like, Biff Tannen and I don't really have a relationship other than, me sort of maneuvering around him, trying to get him away from my old man. Biff Jr., he's a meek, mild person. He never had any problems. Biff Tannen, as I knew him in the 50s, was a bully, and the Biff Tannen I knew from the 80s was a bully to my father. But once everything changed, he became he ran an automotive detailing business, small time, and his son inherited that, much the same. For some reason, Griff, I don't know if it's the woman that Biff Jr. married or what, but he's like a wild animal.
Okay. Do you know, did your son ever hang out with a kid called Kyron Ritchie?
Kyron, I think he came over a couple of times to tutor him and to maybe study. Quiet kid, dark clothes, kind of the artsy type.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Well, all right. I think we've got what we need. We'll see you else time.
Marty says, Kate, Doc, again, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but even if things go bad, I want to thank you both for trying, and it really means a lot to me. And you can see that when he goes to shake Kate's hand, and he just has a sincere, misty-eyed look at him, where he doesn't know you, but you can see the deep sense of appreciation that he does have. And he hugs Doc, and Doc just gives him a nice firm hug and just says, he says, Marty, we're gonna do our best, and but just if things don't work out and this timeline continues, just try to find happiness, because there's no need to dwell on the past. But I know that sounds strange because we're about to go change it. but we'll do everything we can. But if everything we try ends in failure, you should know that that no matter what time you are in or I'm in, you're the best friend I've ever had, and I will do whatever I can to help.
Nice seeing you again, Marty. And with all that, and with me having all the gear I need to participate in this version of 2015, lots of outfits that make sense that are relatively innocuous. So even if Kyron's like, "You look like my sister," I'll be like, "Yeah, but clearly I'm not." That'll probably be everything that we need. Like, I don't know, your dad sleep around and that'll make him uncomfortable. And then I'll be like, "Oh no, not my dad." Haha. Well, then I guess I don't know. Yeah. And I don't know if this is creepy or not, but for the purposes of not even being me and not even having the weird, "You look like my sister and your name is the same as my sister except not," I'm going to be Betty.
Okay.
That's going to be what I call myself in 2015 when we go back. So we're ready to go, and we can do our little test run to see how the emojis look.
Okay. So I can say you'll head back to Doc's.
Should we do it? Should we do emojis for like if something's like if it's okay, or like should we just waiting for the absence or for the presence of it?
I think the way Doc had explained it, the presence of emojis means no, and coming back in time to give you a confirming yes is risky.
Okay.
If things go according to plan, don't risk fucking up
Gotcha.
the decision process that you made before.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I guess with that you can head back to Doc's laboratory, and figure out how you want to do this. So, where in time would you like to go? Like when you leave, where would you like to arrive?
Doc and I are going to make a plan for injecting me into the school system. See how we can like rig that up if that's possible.
He wouldn't guess that it's possible because you need a lot of identifying information. You can't just walk into school and say, "I'm a teenager, let me in." Like you'd have to have some, like a social security number and stuff like that.
Okay, great.
However, Doc has walked into a high school before with a teenager and just talked to other teenagers, so you could probably weasel your way in.
Yeah.
Without too much problem.
And let's just say that Doc is obviously a genius, so I'm being tutored by him. If there's any question about like where I'm supposed to be during the day, I'm homeschooled. Not a problem. That's fine. I'll just be around for the extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you're not sitting in a class where a teacher would be like, "Who the hell are you?"
Right.
I think. You would think that this is not too crazy.
Yeah, that makes sense. That all makes sense.
Especially since Kate's definitely not going to be there.
Yeah.
Other Kate, I mean. Other
Yeah,
Kate certainly,
yeah.
So there's no danger of bumping into her.
Okay. So, cool. Well then, we're gonna go to like the week school starts in 2015.
Okay.
Either late August or early September, whatever it is.
Let's just for funsies, let's just say it's the first week of September.
Okay.
So September 1st is a Tuesday. So let's just say, for fun, August 31st. What do you want to do? Like morning, afternoon, evening?
Let's do evening, so we can arrive just like Marty's parents arrived in Back to the Future 2. At night, able to be like, "Hello, like here's some people, like all the family is here. We'll meet everyone."
Sure. So the plan is go to Marty's house in Hilldale and meet the family and act like, "Hey, everything's all great," sort of thing. Great, okay. So you're going to do your thing where you leave Doc's lab for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. In fact, you could go down to Burger King, grab a quick bite before you make your time jump or something. That's
Yeah, they serve the croissant sandwich all day in this timeline, so
they've greatly expanded the breakfast menu at Burger King. The King reigns supreme in the 2015 the breakfast wars. But yeah, you can head. So we'll say that Doc, everything is like loaded up, pretty much ready to go. Closes the DeLorean, make sure everything's locked and secured. You're only going like down like next door or maybe one door over, depending on how things have moved around in the years since. And you just sort of walk down the street. You got traffic flying above you and everything like that, and you got traffic on the street. And you go. You have a meal. What do you want to order? Just for funsies, what do you want to order?
At Burger King?
Yeah.
In the future?
Futuristic Burger King.
I would like a, whatever their vegan croissant sandwich is.
Oh, they definitely got a vegan croissant sandwich. Yeah.
Thrill me.
Yeah. So you can order that, no problem. You sit down. It's kind of a quiet meal. Doc is just kind of nervously kind of like, munching on just something small just to order something so you can sit there and give enough time. And he's like, you can tell that the entire time he's just keeping his back to the lab. He doesn't want to risk even peripherally seeing anything in case anything goes wrong. You do have your phone on you. I mean, I'm assuming you have your phone on you.
Yeah.
Easily 20 minutes goes by, no problem. You can wait half an hour if you want. You wait as long as you want, but at least 20 minutes have gone by. You've made a note of the time. You know if you had to come back and signal yourself where you would have to go. You know where you're making mental notes of where you're sitting. Doc is taking handwritten notes in a notepad of like exactly like at what time you ordered your food, where you're sitting, and everything like that, just in case. But yeah, you're not getting a signal on your phone. At least that's sure.
Okay, cool. So that's great. I've also been taking this opportunity to explain emojis to Doc, so like he can better look. You have to intuitively you're communicating emotion. That's why they're called emojis. So it's a nod. Just text won't give you enough, but you can. Once you get the hang of it, there's sort of social understandings about the sort of twinge, the sort of direction these suggest, and it helps you. I don't know, kind of paint the emotional space a bit better than just facts alone will. It's like hieroglyphics for your soul.
He's a little on edge waiting to hear, but he is listening very intently to what you're saying. But when you say hieroglyphics for the soul, he's just his eyes just go wide. He says, I've often felt like a man out of time, even in 1985, but I've never felt older than I have right now.
Look, and it's great. There's more and better emoji than there were in my 2016. They've got the trans flag. They've got all these different pairings of like ethnicities and skin tones, and there's non-binary people, and it's all consolidated way better. And I notice I'm just going over his head. And
yet it seems world peace still somehow eludes us. The magic of the emoji can only go so far, it seems, but I have high hopes for the future, assuming we can still save it. I mean, and really, if you reflect on it, there's not a whole lot of time between now and then, when everything goes boom.
Yeah.
So we got to...
But what is the date on that? Do we have a date?
The date that everything went up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell it to you in just a moment. Because you would have etched this into your brain.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Give me my Sarah Connor date.
Yeah. It's going to be real fucking real to you, get it? Anyone we're not wearing a million sunblock's going to have a real bad day. Saturday, October 21st, 2045 at 12 p.m.
Okay.
So, just under 30 years of 2016, and it will be 30 years from 2015.
Cool. Noted. We got nothing. Let's get back to the lab and see what's on the slab.
All right, no problem. You can head back into the lab, and everything looks completely normal. Looks like no one's been here. You see no signs. You'd think if I was coming back here and giving myself a sign, I'd make it fairly obvious just to be sure. Nothing. You look like you were completely in the clear.
Big honkin' doodles right up there on the whiteboard. We got nothing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, if there's a whiteboard and markers, yeah, it's definitely nobody's touched nothing. You've definitely left plenty of opportunities for yourselves, whether it's on the phone, on a whiteboard, on the sidewalk. There's just nothing. There's no signal telling you anything bad is about to happen. And I'll say you've probably been gone for at least half an hour at this point, just to be safe. So the fact that you went and had a meal, had a conversation, come back, you feel like this is completely in the clear.
Cool. All right. Let's do it, Doc.
All right, so he will open up the vehicles He'll open up the vehicle's doors, and you guys can hop in and get ready to go. He says, all right, well, assuming we can, I think we can head back out over the ravine area. We can get off of the Skyway off-ramp there, and then have temporal displacement over there. And he says, okay, I think I know we can get back in, and we can make this fairly quick. So he will take off after you pull out of the garage and up and away, merging in with traffic, making your way. You can do the whole shebang. He's going to put the date in. And things are good to go. So you are going to hit it. And you're going to, like, what time do you think you want to arrive? It's in the evening. So you want to say, like, maybe...
Yeah, let's say it's fall. Let's do, I don't know, 6 p.m.
Sure, 6 p.m. Puts that in. You're good to go. And you head out over to the you get back into the on-ramp of the Skyway traffic, head back out over towards the ravine area, and start to get up to 88 miles per hour. Doc says to get ready for temporal displacement. Of course, like before, you do.
It's all very routine now.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thanks for listening to Kate Was Here. To support this and other surprise RPG experiences, head to patreon.com/omniverse media.